As many of you know, it has a long history, and the meeting has evolved. It started in 2005 as the Stem Cell Policy and Advocacy Summit. That event was at Baylor College of Medicine. In 2006, we worked with the Stanford Center for Biomedical Ethics at Stanford University. We had a major event at the Heinz Convention Center in Boston in 2007 with our partnering organization and institution, the Harvard Stem Cell Institute, which was the Stem Cell Summit. And because we had such a representation of the global community, we evolved into the World Stem Cell Summit, where we staged our event in 2008 in Madison, Wisconsin, with YCell and the University of Wisconsin in Madison. Last year, our event was at Baltimore, at the Baltimore Convention Center, and it's really good to see so many alumni of so many of our meetings here today, and I know during the course of our 3 days. And that event was with our partners, Johns Hopkins University, the University System of Maryland, and the State of Maryland. I've been very proud to be able to introduce the World Stem Cell Summit for 4 consecutive years with the governor of the state. It is a very unique meeting that you're attending because not only do we have top researchers from around the world, we have the leaders from industry, we have leaders of medical philanthropies, patients, consumers, economic development, representatives, and folks from over 20 different countries are coming because of the word stem cells and what it means and how powerful a term it has become. What has happened because of the political debate involving embryonic stem cell research, a very contentious debate, especially in the United States, there was a counterforce that came about, and that force, when consumers feel that something is being taken away from them, it produces a demand, an incredible demand, and attention. So what was an obscure area of developmental biology now is known around the world, and it means hope. But it might mean hope, but we in this room are responsible to monitor how this field moves forward. And it is our hope for this meeting that by bringing all the stakeholders together and network and collaborate and unify, we can make this happen sooner rather than later. Consumers don't see this as some obscure public health issue. They see it as a personal health issue, and that's what's the wind that drives this field forward. This year, we were very, very honored to partner with the MEDC, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation in the state of Michigan, in bringing this event to you, and also our summit co-organizers, where we're very proud to have 3 major universities involved in the field: the University of Michigan, Michigan State University, and Wayne State University. So it gives me great pleasure now to introduce the presidents of those institutions for some brief welcoming remarks. And first, let me bring up to the podium Luana K. Simon, President of Michigan State University.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bernie. Good morning. And on behalf of Michigan State University and my fellow University Research Corridor members, I want to extend a warm welcome to you. The University Research Corridor is pleased to help sponsor this event. Our 3 members, Michigan State University, the University of Michigan, and Wayne State University, all are involved in stem cell research as part of our commitment to push forward the frontiers of health science and nurture the 21st century knowledge economy. Regenerative medicine, stem cell therapy offers significant potential to improve health of millions of people. This is important research conducted with integrity and for the public good. Events such as the World Stem Cell Summit help us explore these important issues, and the University Research Corridor scientists are here with us to advance that discussion. Our 3 universities banded together in 2006 to open new channels for collaboration, leverage our assets, and spur economic development by anchoring Michigan's growing life science sector with cutting-edge research and translational medicine. We also mean to raise awareness of this region's place among the world's great top research clusters. Our benchmarking studies show that the URC competes well with other well-known high-tech regions of the country, supporting significant knowledge economies. The URC helped generate 69,000 jobs, educates more students than any other of the nation's best comparable R&D clusters, and produces more than $13 billion in economic impact annually. As a group, the URC universities account for more than $1.4 billion of research expenditures each year, with advanced materials and energy technology to healthcare. Actually, we're doing better than that, but we're updating those data for release later this month. The life sciences are recognized as a key element in the knowledge economy, one that is growing in good economic times as well as bad. We count nearly 80,000 residents working in the state's life science industry, with the growth of life sciences jobs nearly triple the state average. Each university brings unique strengths to our partnership, and you will hear throughout these sessions described in the areas of stem cell research. But as globally oriented, mission-driven organizations, each URC member is similarly energized by the promise of this research as we strive to make positive difference in the lives of people around the world. To tell you more about the URC partners, I'd like now to introduce my colleague and friend, my counterpart at the University of Michigan, President Mary Sue Coleman.
Well, good morning. I want to join in welcoming everyone to this great state of Michigan. It's an exciting time for Michigan as we look more and more to the life sciences as an economic engine. And as a region, we're excited about hosting this year's summit. As you've heard from President Simon, the University Research Corridor is a showcase for collaboration. Wayne State, Michigan State, and the University of Michigan are powerful research institutions in and of themselves. I'm proud to say that just last week, the University of Michigan was ranked number 1 as a public university in the country in research expenditures. Combined, however, our institutions are a genuine force, making the University Research Corridor one of the most vibrant university regions in the nation. There's also a terrific multiplier effect that comes from our partnership. Each of our universities comes to the URC table with our own respective partners that are both local and global in the fields of medicine, business, engineering, and much more. Michigan State, for example, has assembled a team of world-renowned researchers in Grand Rapids at the Van Andel Institute, after being awarded a multi-million-dollar federal grant for research into Parkinson's disease. Wayne State University is the home of the National Institutes of Health Perinatology Research Branch, which attracts researchers interested in improving the health of mothers and their babies. At Michigan, we are leading a national consortia to work with the Chinese government in developing clean vehicle energy technologies. There's tremendous synergy and strength in these partnerships, which amplify the opportunities for faculty and students to pursue new knowledge and develop cures and solutions to the most pressing problems of our time. We are pleased to carry out this work for the public good. This includes the complex science of stem cell research. Your contributions in the field of stem cell science are vital and important, and you have our best wishes for a productive summit. It's now my pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, Alan Gilmore, the interim president of Wayne State University. Alan.
Thank you, Mary Sue. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'm delighted to join my University Research Corridor colleagues and to welcome everyone to Detroit. This is the hometown of Wayne State University, and as well, it's the hometown of Michigan's first stem cell commercialization center. Stem cell research is changing the world in ways we can't imagine yet, and in ways that we can already imagine and hope for. No matter what we do for a living, we all know someone who could benefit from discoveries that may be made through stem cell research. That is ultimately why we're here for this meeting. Changing the world starts with imagination, but it doesn't end there. Eventually, we must turn the potential of stem cell research into reality that saves and improves lives. Research, knowledge, discovery, these are the starting points, but they only become truly valuable when we take the next important step, translating those discoveries into the real world for real people. Wayne State and our URC partners have experience with this process of turning the potential of research into the reality of everyday living. Faculty at the University of Michigan have launched 93 new companies since 2001. Michigan State faculty are spinning out new businesses based on everything from laser technology to food safety. The goal of the Great Lakes Stem Cell Commercialization Center, located in Wayne State's Tech Town, is to turn the potential of stem cell research into reality. Tech Town, incidentally, is Wayne State's research park and the world's largest business incubator, supporting more than 270 new companies. Businesses and scientists use the center to help in accelerating the transition from discovery to the marketplace, to bring their solutions to the people who need them the most. To a layman like me, stem cell research is a radical idea as radical as going to the moon was back in the 1960s. And some of us can remember those days. It seems like something you could imagine, but not possibly achieve. It had never been done. Remember those words. It's never been done. You've heard them before and you'll hear them again. Please consider them a challenge. The whole world is waiting to see what you will do that has never been done before. Thank you.
The university presidents have it down to a science, and thank you for those introductions. Before I introduce our first speaker who's joined us at the podium, Senator Carl Levin, I want to orient the program a little bit, if you'll allow me, Senator. Thank you. First of all, I wanted to acknowledge the University Research Corridor and its head, Jeff Mason, for his important work in helping coordinate this entire conference and how deeply we appreciate his service in the University Research Corridor. I also want to salute the co-chairs of the World Stem Cell Summit, Dr. Stephen Forrest, Vice President for Research at the University of Michigan, Dr. Ian Gray, Vice President for Research and Graduate Studies at Michigan State University, Dr. Hillary Ratner, Vice President for Research at Wayne State University, and Dr. Gregory Main, President and CEO of Michigan Economic Development Corporation. All of the institutional support that was organized by these fine representatives of their universities and institutions were very, very deeply appreciated. I also want to acknowledge the program committee and planning committee through our weekly Friday slogs as we put together this really wonderful program over the next 3 years that also included representatives of the University Research Corridor, Oakland University, the Alliance for Regenerative Medicine, Michael Warner and Maury Ruffin, and our own Genetics Policy Institute, Alan Giacomo, and others who helped put this program together. I want to also mention that yesterday was an extremely exhilarating day. Thanks to a grant from the Taubman Foundation, we were able to have a wonderful free public day at the Detroit Science Center, which was a stem cell public education day. The third year we've done this, but this time it was a true success, just building every year that we've done this. Hundreds of folks came to the Detroit Science Center and had a chance to work with hands-on stem cell equipment, look through the microscopes, see the cells, listen to Stem Cell 101 presentations, conversations with experts with a give and take, review and listen to panels on unsafe stem cell treatments, so we were involved in consumer protection. We had teachers' workshops where the teachers actually were able to get hands-on material to be able to take back to their classrooms from National Institutes of Health, other institutions that helped us produce a truly successful day. And I'm very proud that the Genetics Policy Institute and the World Stem Cell Summit was able to help deliver something that was very important to the community. I want to just orient you very briefly, as we will do throughout the conference, so that you get to where you're supposed to go. You should all have in your conference books a program agenda guide, and that is the key document to get you and navigate over the next few days. And on page 3, you have 3 maps of the conference floor plans that looks a little like Star Trek, the Enterprise, as I look at it. But it is really as simple to navigate. We're going to have the plenary sessions in this room, the Columbus Ballroom. And to either side of the Columbus Ballroom is the Cartier and Cabot rooms. Those are the rooms where you'll have your expert luncheons later today, and also whenever there are concurrent sessions or focus sessions, those rooms will be occupied, as well as this room, with sessions for you. At one level up is there are a series of rooms. One includes the Mackinac Ballroom, and it's available right outside by elevator or escalator. And when we break into 4 concurrent sessions, one of those sessions will be 1 floor up in the Mackinac Ballroom. And when we are ready to open the exhibit floor at 1 o'clock today, that is 1 floor down at the Ambassador Ballroom. So I'll be giving you more updates on that as the day progresses. Also, in your book, in your bag, is the copy of the 2010 World Stem Cell Report, a true labor of love. There's no report like this out there. It's produced by the Genetics Policy Institute to give a holistic 360-degree world view of stem cells governance, the different alphabet soup organizations and institutions that are involved with stem cells, country reports, and a general overview of the field that is very important if we're going to progress this field forward. Well, we're extraordinarily honored today as our first speaker to have someone who's well known to everyone in the state of Michigan. I think anyone who watches Face the Nation or Meet the Press knows a real iconic political figure in the United States, which is Senator Carl Levin. Senator Levin is the senior citizen for the senior citizen. Sorry about that. We know we have a panel on aging, Senator, but I'm getting there too. Both. Great start. Senator shows you I just should wing it. I shouldn't try to read. Senator Levin is the senior senator for the state of Michigan. He has represented the citizens of Michigan for more than 30 years. He serves on many committees, of course, and is chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee. But for those of us who are stem cell advocates, this is where we really know your work, because he has been a champion of stem cell research in the United States Senate, but also in the state of Michigan. And the state of Michigan has, of course, undergone a political struggle related to stem cells, I would say unlike any state in the country. And if it were not for Senator Levin's support early on for stem cell research in the state and his backing for Michigan citizens for stem cell research and cures, his organizational zeal and his determination, I don't think that the state of Michigan would be a stem cell state that now protects stem cell research in its state's constitution, which is very formidable work and something beyond Washington. Right now in the United States, this meeting really I was hoping was going to be much more sunny and optimistic, looking at the translational issues that has expanded our worldview well beyond embryonic stem cell research, using tissue-specific cells and reprogrammed cells and trying to solve all the regulatory issues. But it's like we are back to the bad, good old days right now, with the case of Shirley versus Sebelius in the United States that suddenly has cast a pall over funding for embryonic stem cell research funding through the National Institutes of Health, the great engine for scientific research in the United States and the world. So it's extremely important that a prominent United States Senator is joining us this morning to give us the perspective. For most of us who study this issue very carefully, myself included, in fact, my organization has actually filed an amicus brief in the case of Shirley versus Sebelius supporting the government's position. We're so concerned about this is that the courts themselves are not going to resolve it completely, and we are hoping that there will be decisive legislative action in Washington so the clouds over the field can be removed. So let's all welcome our good friend, Senator Carl Levin.
Well, thank you, Bernie, for a great introduction. When you say that I'm an iconic political figure in Michigan, I'm not sure that's a safe position to even be in these days, but I know it was well-intended, and we very much appreciate it. We heard a little earlier about from our two presidents at the University of Michigan and Michigan State about collaboration between those two universities, and that collaboration, of course, well, we remember that next Saturday on the football field when Michigan and Michigan State play. You will not see much collaboration at the Big House. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to my hometown. I'm proud you have chosen Detroit as the site of this World Stem Cell Summit. I'm proud of what that says about Michigan's role in this extraordinarily important field of scientific research and discovery. When people think of Detroit, they tend to think of Motown music and auto factories, and we Detroiters are always happy to talk about both of those. But this week, you'll get at least a taste of something else that Michigan has to offer, an amazing collection of research universities and institutes, private organizations, and entrepreneurial companies that make our state a hub of bioscience innovation. Among the areas of research in which Michigan is making its mark is stem cell research, and for that you can thank, as Bernie said, the voters of this state. Many of you know that Michigan voters in 2008 passed a landmark referendum lifting stem cell research and protecting embryonic stem cell research in our Constitution. We're one of only a few states to do that. And we lifted the onerous restrictions that existed before that on stem cell research. And almost overnight, Michigan was transformed from a difficult place to conduct cutting-edge stem cell research to one of the hotbeds of that research. Others at this conference will sing the praises of Michigan's researchers and their work in this field. That's not going to stop me from singing their praises too. University of Michigan, for instance, their research team began the first ever clinical trials of stem cell research on ALS. Researchers at Michigan State University are among the world's leaders in studying the ability of stem cells to form any of the varied cell types in our body. The Great Lakes Stem Cell Commercialization Center at Wayne State University here in Detroit, as President Gilmore mentioned, focuses on moving innovative research from the lab to the market. You'll hear this week from researchers and officials at those schools, and you already have, as well as Central Michigan University, Oakland University, and other great Michigan institutions about the important work that they're doing. I'm proud of all of them, and I'm excited about what the work that they're doing can mean for patients, for their own institutions, and for Michigan's economy. Government decisions once stood in the way of much of that work, and government, or more precisely voters, opened the way for that work to go on. So let me spend most of my time with you talking about the intersection of your realm, science, and my realm, politics. Ideally, science and politics don't intersect. As an editorial in a Detroit newspaper said yesterday, this World Stem Cell Summit, quote, shows the importance of protecting research from politics, and it is vital to shield health science research from political meddling. That's very true indeed. But the reality is that in a democratic society, people and their representatives are free to set or to try to set policy for research. Those of us who want to keep science free from politics and free from political interference must fight in the political arena itself to keep it free. That may be ironic, but it's true. Indeed, many of us, if not most of us, favor some restrictions. Michigan's voter-approved law, as well as federal law, limit researchers to the use of the plentiful supply of embryos that would otherwise be discarded from fertility clinics, and then only with the consent of the donors. Those restrictions helped us win that election, that referendum, 2 years ago. It's awfully hard to argue, we believe, that providing life-giving use to an embryo that is going to be destroyed can be made. We don't see how that argument can be rationally or fairly made. But it is made, and it's made very vigorously, and many still hold to that belief that it is somehow wrong even to use those embryos in life-giving research. But for those of us who believe it is not only not wrong, but it is right and a moral imperative, then must fight just as hard for our beliefs as those who would restrict stem cell research fight for their beliefs. We carried on that fight during the Bush administration. We did not understand how, in the name of life, the president could prevent research into potential life-saving medical and life-enhancing treatments for those so desperately in need. We didn't understand it, and we fought against those Bush restrictions. Congress voted twice by large majorities to reverse President Bush's restrictions on embryonic stem cell research. But the majorities were not 2/3 of each house of the Congress, the number required to override a presidential veto. For instance, we had 63 votes in the Senate, a few votes short of 2/3. President Obama's decision to lift those restrictions was a victory for science. President Obama said it very well when he announced his decision. Quote, as a person of faith, he said, I believe we are called to care for each other and work to ease human suffering. I believe, he said, we have been given the capacity and the will to pursue this research and the humanity and conscience to do so responsibly. A majority of the American people agree with President Obama. A recent Gallup poll shows that 3 out of 5 Americans support research using stem cells derived from human embryos. That's not only a significant majority, but it's an increase from just 8 years ago. So President Obama was standing with a large and a growing majority of Americans when he made his decision. That victory, like so many victories in public policy, was not permanent. And as you know, a federal judge not too long ago issued a ruling that blocked the use of federal funds for stem cell research. The ruling held that such funding violated a 1995 law called the Dickey-Wicker Amendment, which bars federal funding for research that involves destroying or discarding human embryos. Past and present NIH heads have interpreted that amendment as allowing the use of embryonic stem cells in federally funded research so long as federal funding is not used to actually destroy the embryos. Now, I believe the judge's ruling depends on a mistaken reading of the law, and I'm hopeful that an appeals court will overturn the decision. And I'm encouraged, as I'm sure most of you or all of you are, that the appeals court allows funding, federal funding of new research, while the case is being appealed to and through the appellate courts. But we just don't know what will happen if the appellate courts end up upholding the lower court decision prohibiting that federal funding. Because then Congress must repeal Dickey-Wicker. Will there be a majority in the House of Representatives? And will there be 60 votes in the Senate to overcome the inevitable filibuster if and when that time comes? The upcoming November election will likely determine that. The embryonic stem cell issue is involved in a number of Senate races. So there's no getting away from it. Stem cell research and politics will continue to intersect, like it or not, right or wrong. That's going to be a fact of life here in America. That's not the only intersection, the one that I just described. There's another one, and that's the level of federal funding through NIH for stem cell research. 49 senators voted just a few days ago to cut funding of all federal programs but defense by 5% across the board, including the NIH's budget. Now, that's a meat-axe approach to federal budget priorities, but it will be tried again. It was defeated by just a bare majority, but it will be tried again, slashing all expenditures across the board, perhaps other than defense. While spending cuts and fiscal restraint are needed, whether priorities should be established or whether across-the-board slashes in spending are in order is another issue that is going to be debated in campaigns across this country during the next month. Now, I'm not a scientist, and I'm sure you've noticed that. Most of my constituents are not scientists. We may never fully understand the complex and, to lay people, the mysterious natural wonders which are your stock in trade. And there will always be those who will seek to exploit that lack of understanding with misleading or inaccurate claims about what you do. But just as there are political figures who exploit misunderstanding, there are those who try to dispel it. If politicians do our jobs well, we can spread information, helping all those non-scientists in our communities understand the importance of the work that you do. Politics, in other words, can be the force that opens new paths of inquiry, education, and information, just as Michigan voters did in 2008, and just as President Obama did in 2009 with his stem cell decision. So you have many allies in the public world. One of those is the governor of Michigan, Governor Jennifer Granholm, whose vision is broad enough to encompass not just the immense potential of stem cell research for treating human suffering, but also its potential to help bring new economic vitality. And you have my longtime friend Al Taubman, whose support was so instrumental in Michigan's 2008 referendum, and whose generosity has made research possible at the University of Michigan and elsewhere. You will honor both of them tomorrow night at your dinner. You could not have chosen more deserving honorees. And there are others, people like our university presidents, people like Joe Schwartz, a former congressman, who, believe me, takes a lot of grief from within his party because he supports embryonic stem cell research and other stem cell research as well. There are hundreds of volunteers who did the thankless work, calling voters, filling envelopes, gathering signatures, that made possible that important and closely contested 2008 vote here in Michigan. They are all heroes and heroines. I believe that long after all of us are gone, the generations to follow will look at these people and many, many others with admiration. And they'll do so because they will live in a world that is made safer, healthier by the treatments and cures that people in this room and across the world will discover. Some of those people down the generational road will owe their health, their very lives, to the vision and the work of supporters and to the willingness to do battle in the political world where necessary. If the idea of that future doesn't motivate all of us to deliver on the promise of this research, I don't know what would. So thanks for all your dedication and your hard work, whether it's in a lab or an administrator's office or in an established company or a new startup. Thank you again for coming to our town. We are so proud to have you here, and good luck on what I know will be an immensely successful summit. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Senator Levin, and for encouraging words, inspiring words. One moment, please. Now we come to the really significant part of the program when our next speaker is stuck in traffic for a few minutes. So this is a chance for me to give you more information about the summit because it's a complex event. So let's just talk about it a second. I know there are many veterans who have been at this event before, and in our past meetings, it's grown from a 2-day event. Now it covers 3 days. And what we have tried to do is to broaden the subject matter and the scope of the conference. So essentially, outside of the plenary sessions, we're running in tracks. We have a science track, a industry track, and a society track. And we've created concurrent sessions and then focus sessions. The conference moves from plenary then to concurrent sessions where there are 4 things to consider running simultaneously, and focus sessions, 8 different projects. And since, as we all know, cloning is prohibited, you are going to have some hard decisions to make. At the focus sessions, some of them are quite specialized, but it'll give the attendees an opportunity to dig deep into some of these subject matters with leading experts that are coming in from around the world. For as far as the scientific presentations, those presentations are all going to be in the Cartier Ballroom, which is one of the rooms adjacent to this room, the Columbus Room. So if you're a scientist and interested only in listening to science presentations, you're going to be safely in the same room throughout the event. In general, in the Columbus Room, we're having society track issues, but not exclusively. So I look carefully at the program and remember that the concurrent sessions are in the 3 rooms on this floor in the Mackinac Ballroom upstairs. What we've tried to do with the program this year is to take this beyond just a conference related to embryonic stem cells, which surely on the science side we have done. But for those individuals in the audience who do not have a science background, indeed my 10th grade biology teacher would be surprised at what I'm doing today, there are many panels directed to the educated layperson or industry that are not just science presentations. One of the favored aspects of the program are stem cell progress reports, where we will get an update from usually an industry leader, a scientific researcher, a science researcher, and a lay person or foundation representative, patient advocate, on what the progress of a specific disease type is right now related to stem cells. For example, we have a panel on stem cell progress report for diabetes with Dr. Dominguez Bendala from the Diabetes Research Institute, Dr. Demore from the company Viasite, and Robert Hindle, who's involved with JDRF Canada on the International Board of Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. He's on the Board of Genetics Policy Institute. So there, if you're a patient, hopefully you can come away from that meeting, from that session, and really have an understanding of what stem cell research means and the prospects for your disease or medical condition. And also you get a sense of what's going on in the exciting world of industry and commercialization in the field. I want to, on the industry side, we're very excited that during this meeting we have a meeting within a meeting. On Tuesday, representatives from the Alliance for Regenerative Medicine, they call it ARM, will be having their annual meeting within our meeting, and many of the representatives of the Alliance for Regenerative Medicine, Washington-based, that represents over 40 to 50 companies and nonprofit organizations lobbying for legislation to advance the field, translational field of regenerative medicine, are going to be here. Representatives from Pfizer and J&J and Geron, Stem Cells Inc., and many other fine companies are going to be here. And the industry track is really designed at how we're going to move things, research, from the bench to the bedside. Certainly a theme that's going to be running throughout this conference is that this is not just about lobbying for funding. We're not just cheerleading basic science. It's beyond that. If you're a patient advocate, if you're someone suffering with a spinal cord injury in a wheelchair, if you're a mom with a child with diabetes, it's not enough to understand that there's great cellular research going on. You want to know how it's going to impact. And we need companies to be able to commercialize products. We need to be able to figure out how cell therapies are going to work. How are we going to work in a complementary fashion with the regulatory agencies, not only the FDA, but around the world, to be able to accomplish what we are trying to do here? And we have the regulators coming to this meeting. We have the representatives of NIST and NIH and FDA and regulators from around the world, hopefully to solve this problem. So you'll see a theme as you look through the program guide, so that we'll have a panel on cell standardization. How can a researcher in China work with the same cells as a researcher in the United States or the UK? How's that going to be actually solved? Who's determining whether the cells match and have the same properties necessary for clinical and commercial use? We'll be learning from all of these array of companies that are working on the issue of reimbursements. How is Medicare or Medicaid going to reimburse something as unusual as cell therapies that are going to come down the road? Are there insurance solutions that can be designed for the burgeoning cord blood field and indeed all of regenerative medicine that suddenly can be a solution that might turn on the light so that these companies can be assured that, and the patients can be assured that their treatments are going to be paid for. These are really vexing and thorny issues. And the bottom line is, what good is it, really, if we can cure a mouse of diabetes, but it's going to take 30 years through the regulatory process to get it into a human being? That's one of the purposes of the Genetics Policy Institute, as the nonprofit organization that I founded, is trying to solve these very, very vexing problems. And this meeting, for those of you who are veterans, you know this is really designed as a networking meeting. This is unlike any other meeting in the field, because it's driven, I like to say, it's with a program that's intelligently designed. It's designed to really connect people to one another, which leads me to another point. It's a little unusual sometimes to see a patient in a wheelchair at a stem cell meeting. And as an advocate myself, who gave up the practice of law 8 years to do this, I remember how it felt as I was at the organizational meeting of the International Society of Stem Cell Research, standing in the hallway, waiting to speak to a scientist. My colleague Don Reed, who is a stalwart stem cell advocate from California, knows that feeling, because we were involved in trying to promote the field. But, you know, for a civilian to sit into a scientific presentation, it is a big, big challenge to understand anything. And while many of the scientists are very gracious, we all know that some of our scientific colleagues speak in tongues. It's hard to understand what they're saying to someone who's, as I said, who might not be well versed in cell biology. So this meeting is meant to bridge that gap and create bridges of understanding for all of the stakeholder communities. We have, starting at 1 o'clock today, a very exciting exhibit hall opening up. And we have companies from around the world. I encourage all of you to attend this. And, of course, this evening, starting at 4:30, there's going to be food and beverages and refreshments down in the exhibit hall. It's a tremendous networking opportunity that's going to take place both today and tomorrow on the exhibit floor. Don't miss it. And do not fail to introduce yourself to the exhibitors, thank them for being there, and find out what amazing discoveries that there are out today. It is just amazing. And these discoveries and these machines and these tools and these reagents are so amazing, because these are the things that are here and now that are necessary for the researchers in this room to be able to move their field forward in a quicker, faster way, sooner rather than later. So that is a very important aspect. On page 11 of your program, Events at a Glance, you have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday's special events. One of the things that is most exciting and interesting to our participants is the experts' luncheons that will take place also at 1 o'clock both days. On Monday and Tuesday, we have expert luncheons where you will have an opportunity to grab a really good boxed lunch and go to look at the form that's in your guide that has a list of the luncheon tables where an expert is going to be your table host. There you can have lunch and have your questions answered with leading experts in the field. It's an awesome networking experience and everyone's favorite. And if you feel like you sit at the wrong table, well, you'll learn something that you didn't know before. And if you don't get a table on day one or your favorite table and you end up sitting with just other attendees, we have 1,000 experts in the room. So you'll learn something and it'll be a part of the valuable networking experience. We also have a poster session, and I think we have about 100 posters that were submitted and are on display that also are going to be available for viewing between the hours today, between 1 and 7 p.m., and tomorrow between 8 a.m. and 7, and then on Wednesday from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. For those speakers that are here, as you know, there's a speakers reception that was invitation only between 7 and 9 at the conference center. Another theme is that this is an international meeting. And it's really extraordinary as I watch the registration list grow and see representatives from over 20 countries attending: Saudi Arabia, China, Taiwan, Korea, Australia, on and on. We have panels on countries with a leading edge, competitive edge. This is a chance to expand your horizons in ways that you can't really imagine unless you experience it. So this is the opportunity. Also, we have an awards dinner tomorrow night, the Stem Cell Action Awards. When I found out, it's always more empowering to give an award than receive one. And over the years, the Stem Cell Action Awards is a piece of glass, but it's an important representation of those that have recognized the stem cell need, the need for advocacy. And this year's Stem Cell Action Awards, we are going to be honoring extraordinary organizations and individuals. My friend, A. Alfred Taubman, is going to be recognized for his national advocacy leadership. And I had an opportunity last night to chat with Mr. Taubman at some length. I have so enjoyed that experience. He has done so much for the state of Michigan and as a result for the world from his wonderful philanthropy and advocacy. He is one of our honorees at that event. Another honoree is the Canadian Stem Cell Network, which has been doing tremendous work for public education and will be the recipient of our Education Award. In past years, it was the National Association of Biology Teachers that received that award, and Michigan Citizens for Stem Cell Research and Cures last year was a recipient of that recognition. We have a National Grassroots Award every year. In the past, it's been the Student Society of Stem Cell Research and some of the amazing organizations like the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, the Parkinson's Action Network, and this year we're going to be honoring ALS Worldwide. ALS Worldwide was founded by Stephen and Barbara Beyer, who lost their wonderful son Ben to ALS. The film of that Byers is an absolutely compelling film called Indestructible, and what the family search, the forlorn search for hope in the case of diabetes. So they are going to be recognized for the work that they've done with ALS Worldwide. Thank you. In addition, we are inspired every year by certain patient advocates that have made a difference. And this year, we're going to be honoring Laura Jackson. Laura Jackson, as you may know, is very well known in the state of Michigan. Sadly for Laura, she was injured as a young woman in a cheerleading accident. As a result, she suffered a severe spinal cord injury. She was rendered a quadriplegic. But she has found a very powerful voice as a patient advocate. So Laura is going to be with us with her family, and she's been a spokesperson not only for stem cell research all these years, but also as for cheerleading safety. Part of this meeting is dedicated to an individual, John Kellerman III. All of you who attended the awards dinner last year remember John, who founded the Maryland Stem Cell Action Group to make Maryland such a proponent of stem cell research funding. And he was on the board, the governing board of the Maryland Stem Cell Research Commission. Well, unfortunately, he lost in this past year his long struggle with Parkinson's disease and cancer. We so admired him for his courage. So as we work forward in our meeting over the next 3 days, I hope that we can remember that this is beyond a science conference and beyond a conference how to make money and commercialize, but something that really touches human beings very, very deeply, very deeply. And this is your opportunity to connect with people in a very important way. Now, I can take a breath and see how bad traffic can be in Detroit. But fortunately, I don't know if you know this, I used to be a trial lawyer, so it helps. You know how to talk. So you'll hear my voice a lot the next few days until I lose it, which I do inevitably. Let me just mention one other thing that's pretty important. How is it that we came to Detroit? And this was a lot of people who have never been to Detroit might be wondering. Well, as I've said many times, first of all, every year we bring the World Stem Cell Summit where there is major academic support. And there couldn't have had a stronger academic support than the universities in the state of Michigan. Not only the members of the URC, Michigan, Michigan State, and Wayne State, Oakland University, who became an education and science partner. But it's more than that. The state of Michigan passed Proposal 2. It became one of the few states, with Missouri and California, to affirmatively make a statement for stem cell research. And the foes of the research were so determined to chip away at that. Let me make it clear, the World Stem Cell Summit would not be in Michigan if it were not for Proposal 2. And the fact that this meeting is going to inject $1 million in the economy of this state, this is a very important statement. Just as the citizens of Michigan and the voters of Michigan made a commitment, we are making a commitment to the state of Michigan. And I couldn't be more thrilled that there are stem cell commercialization centers forming in the state, new collaborations, and world-class research. So I think that all of us can salute what's going on in the state and realize that this state gets millions of dollars of grant money. They need to buy the tools, equipment, and there's a good reason for all of the people that are in this room to do business in this state. It's an amazing thing. And another point, the city of Detroit has an enormous cultural history. I've been to Detroit now 4 or 5 times. This is an extraordinarily vibrant place with a cultural history that's absolutely amazing. And cities in history go up and they go down. But the seeds of success are being found right here. The seeds of success in the biotechnology industry, the incubators that are out there, and the entrepreneurial zeal that I see. You can come for the state of Michigan and set yourself up in such a less expensive way than almost any other place in the world, yet have all the academic infrastructure. And it's so fascinating to me that the manufacturing money from the 20th century, this vast sum of money, is there is here right now in the institutions that are present. So I just want to ask, has the governor arrived yet, by the way? Okay. Well, since the governor is on the way and we may lose her, someone suggested I could start the 9:30 session. I would rather try to keep on track. Only if I hear from the governor's office, Mr. Taubman, will I switch. Okay. Thank you, sir, for the recommendation. All right. Without further ado. Yes, I need a glass of water. Can you imagine how my staff has to suffer listening to me all day? I'm very pleased to introduce our next speaker. And if I can bring to the stage the governor of the state of Michigan, Jennifer Granholm. Governor Granholm. I think this is the way it was supposed to happen. Yes. seat for a moment.
Have a seat. Oh, all right.
Yes. Thank you. Good to see you again. Good. I want you to know I supplied my keynote address already as you were fighting traffic, so that's good. Thank you for joining us. The program has moved with alacrity because you're only 5 minutes. We're only 5 minutes behind schedule, but from up here, from my standpoint, it's gone a little longer. Let me say a couple of things about our friend Governor Jennifer Granholm. I met the governor in October 2006 when she graciously was a keynote speaker at an event that we held, a town hall meeting that the Genetics Policy Institute held at the University of Michigan in Dearborn. I have been up to Michigan several times, often in debates with foes of embryonic stem cell research. And I was so pleased that the governor thought that our town hall meeting was important enough for her to attend. I really discovered that Governor Granholm was an incredible champion for creating new industries for the state of Michigan, specifically in the biotechnology industry, and has worked throughout her terms to create opportunities in the state. Moreover, she's been an incredible proponent and ally of stem cell research proposal 2 in the field. In conversations with her, she's indicated to me, of course, it's more than just about economic development. It's about the humanitarian cause as well. The work that the state of Michigan has done, Michigan Economic Development Corporation, your administration, and the leadership provided is one of the key reasons that we have brought our meeting to the World Stem Cell Summit and have representatives from around the world in Detroit in the state of Michigan. Unfortunately, Tuesday evening, Governor Granholm's schedule will not permit her to attend the awards dinner where she is to be recognized with the National Leadership Award. So as I call Governor Granholm up to have her remarks, I want to call her up now and present her with the World Stem Cell Summit Stem Cell Action National Leadership Award for her work in the field. Thank you very much, Governor. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Bernie. What a great honor to be given that award. I'm sorry that I won't be with you on Tuesday, and I'm sorry to have made you nervous about the stretch, but everybody's still there, I think, so far, so good. First of all, let me say that I know many of you are scientists, and it's not often that a governor or politician speaks before a group of scientists. I know you heard from Carl Levin a few minutes ago. Y'all who are scientists are working in labs and doing experiments and all of that. And I just want you to know that I'm a scientist too, a political scientist, and my lab is one of the laboratories of democracy, which is Michigan. And I just want to give you a brief report from this laboratory of democracy, because I think it has some lessons for perhaps some of the other labs that are out there. I want to first, though, in addition to obviously accepting this great leadership award, and it is a terrific honor, I know that Al Taubman is here as well, and I want to say congratulations and thank you as well. I know you will be honored as well tomorrow night, and as you know, I'm a big fan, but I am a big fan not just because you're a great human being, but because you are a doer. And this stem cell research effort in Michigan is all following in your wake. So thank you so much and congratulations. And I do want to thank Bernie and the Genetics Policy Institute for choosing to come to Michigan and bringing this 2010 summit here to Detroit. Obviously, this is one of the most important life sciences conferences in the world, and we are pleased to host it here, and we're pleased to be co-organizers, along with, of course, the University of Michigan and Wayne State University and Michigan State University and the University Research Corridor and our Michigan Economic Development Corporation. It's a group effort. It takes a lot of chemistry to make it happen. And that elixir that is happening in Michigan in our laboratory has a theory, and the theory is, of course, that we will be able to find cures to, you name it, all of the litany of diseases and injury that the potential is for with this great research effort. And I just want to say, as governor of Michigan, where there are 770,000 people who could benefit from any one of the cures that might result from stem cell research. Thank you. Thank you on behalf of our state for the work that you all are doing to make it a reality in your laboratories. So as Bernie has said, and as Carl Levin said, of course, for us in Michigan, the inputs to our experiment, our laboratory, began really perhaps a little bit more than 2 years ago, but culminated in 2008 with the passage of Proposal 2. And prior to that, of course, it was illegal to do stem cell research in Michigan based upon an anachronistic law. And with the vote, it not only just became legal, but it was enshrined in our state constitution. We are now one of just 3 states that have this enshrined in the Constitution. So we really went in one vote from the ridiculous to the sublime. And Proposal 2, of course, allowed Michigan to join 45 other states in a country that now has a president that also supports stem cell research, and we're pleased to see the acceleration of that research happening. Last year, then, as part of the other steps that we've been taking in our lab, the University of Michigan announced the opening of the A. Alfred Taubman Medical Research Institute Consortium for stem cell therapies, and this is a $2 million center, and I know we've got great researchers from U of M here who are doing this great work, but it's a collaboration between 2 institutions, educational institutions at U of M, as well as the others, the research centers at U of M, which were, of course, the Center for Stem Cell Biology, and then the Center for Human Embryonic Stem Cell Research. One of the early results of that, of course, as many of you saw yesterday in the newspaper, was that the University of Michigan has cultivated its own stem cell line, and we believe that will significantly position our state for the not just the cures, but the welcoming of additional researchers to our state, and from my perspective, hopefully the commercialization of that research, and obviously commercialization to the end of a cure, but commercialization because of our economy as well. So U of M has got its significant efforts, and then not far from here at Wayne State University, the Tech Town Business Incubator is now the Stem Cell Commercialization Center. So like any good experiment, you want to make sure that the conditions are right, and I believe that the conditions for having a thriving stem cell industry include the research and the development, but also the ecosystem, the infrastructure for commercializing that research. Wayne State University providing facilities that include wet labs for those entrepreneurs who wish to start and expedite clinical trials and commercialization. And then west of right here in Plymouth, Michigan, Wayne County is investing $1.5 million to create the Michigan Center for Regenerative Medicine. And that will house a number of up-and-coming small businesses, including they will have a small wet lab, a stem cell wet lab, and manufacturing space, an office space of about 21,000 square feet. And then about 90 miles east of here in East Lansing, west of here in East Lansing, you'll see the Michigan State University's cellular reprogramming lab, where they are transforming ordinary skin cells into pluripotent cells. According to the National Science Foundation, these three universities that make up our university research corridor spent more than $1 billion in life sciences research and development in 2009. That includes stem cell, but is larger than stem cell. And this life sciences industry is one of the targeted sectors that we have developed as we have made this effort to diversify Michigan's economy. So let me just dial back for 1 second. When I became governor, Michigan was in the middle of a recession. We had seen, in 2003, we had seen the start of a dip in the domestic auto sales. We know that Michigan has 7 times more automotive manufacturing than all the other states. So when the auto industry gets hit, and clearly that hit culminated in 2008 and 2009 with the bankruptcies of our largest automakers, that we as a state have been hit 7 times harder than other states. Our focus, therefore, has been to diversify Michigan's economy, building on strategic strengths and adding new sectors to that economy. So in 2006, we adopted something called the 21st Century Jobs Fund. We were the only state in the country to securitize our tobacco settlement fund, basically creating a 10-year commitment of $2 billion to diversify Michigan's economy into 6 sectors. One of those sectors, the most robust of those sectors, is in the life sciences. As a result of that commitment, that $2 billion 10-year commitment to life sciences, some of that is leveraged through the venture capital community, we have funded now 96 life sciences companies since 2006. 96. So that's all very important. Now, we know this strategy to diversify has required, obviously, investment in research and development, but investment in this infrastructure that I talk about, too. And so, of course, attached to every one of our universities is what is known as a smart zone, and that's an economic development incentive, if you will, a tax-free incentive that will allow incubators to be created. And so we've got incubators attached to our universities to take ideas from patent to commercialization. And then, on top of that, because many times scientists, with all due respect, are not necessarily business people, and so we want to make sure that there's a good business model and a good business plan and an assist for those who have great ideas and want to take them to market. And so we have created 12 small business technical and development centers all over the state to be able to provide that support and that effort. And then organizations like MishBio is providing the networking ability for those entrepreneurs to be able to get on their feet. So the components of a thriving life sciences ecosystem dovetail precisely with what this stem cell research effort is doing. And we believe that for Michigan, the state that has had the highest unemployment rate in the nation because of our reliance on the manufacturing sector, now we can see this push our economy, broaden our economy, and attract the type of educational efforts, scientists, STEM education that we know will put us on a very strong footing going into the next decade of the 21st century. For us, we know that the U.S. stem cell market in 2010 is expected to grow from about 100 million in 2010 to about 8 billion by 2016. So we're hungry in Michigan, and we want to get our piece of that $8 billion. We want to get an oversized piece of that $8 billion. So we got to be committed to this, right? So you know that you've got all of these partners who are here at this summit, not just in Michigan, but from different countries and other states as well. And we know that this requires this effort, partnerships. And I know Senator Levin, or I'm told he talked a bit about the advocacy that's necessary. Clearly, government has to be a partner, as disdainful as that is to many. But clearly, you have to have the support from the federal government to invest in this research, and the universities that are doing it, as well as states to invest and support the businesses that grow from it, and the legal ecosystem that enables stem cell research to grow and to thrive. And that cooperation, those partnerships, are absolutely fundamental. Last year, the University of Michigan, I know, received $6.8 million in federal stimulus awards from the Recovery Act to fund 13 stem cell research projects, without which it would be difficult for them to do the research necessary. The support has to continue. And the vigilance has to continue. Let me just say that if you're a scientist, and I'm assuming that when you do an experiment in your lab and you are testing a hypothesis, you create the environment for your experiment to grow without contaminants, without incursion, and you have to protect it, right? In the same way that we have to protect the experiment that is happening in Michigan and in other states. We cannot allow incursions on our experiment if our hypothesis that this will provide cures is to be borne out. And so, as an example, we know that incursions are happening all over the place. We know that, for example, in March, when President Obama signed an executive order lifting stem cell research restrictions, in August, and that was March of 2009, but in August of this year, that U.S. District Court issued a preliminary injunction which put on hold the stem cell funding guidelines. Last week, as many of you know, the Court of Appeals, U.S. Court of Appeals, stayed the injunction while it considers the case. That's an incursion on our experiment. Even in Michigan, just last week, our budget process, there was an effort to insert into the higher education funding bill an incursion on that research and development efforts, regulations that would have required onerous reporting requirements under the guise of transparency. And of course, transparency is important, but when the guidelines are written such that it will prevent robust discovery, then we have a problem. And so we stood firm, passed a higher education budget that did not have those regulations in it, but that's another example of the constant vigilance that we have to undergo. And this continual tug of war between proponents and opponents of stem cell research obviously is our big challenge. I believe that those who are pro-life community, I'm a Catholic, I know that the people who are in the pro-life community take their position about stem cell research on principled grounds, and I respect that. But I think that there is a moment for principled grounds to be based in fact and theory, and I believe that we will be able to persuade many more people once the stem cell research bears the fruit that we know that it will. You know, I was yesterday looking up the dictionary definition of regenerative for regenerative medicine, and the definition is to form again, to become formed again, to return from a state of decline to a revitalized state, or to cause something to do this. In religion, it is to restore and renew somebody morally or spiritually, to be born again. And isn't that really what stem cell research is doing? Giving birth, being born again, creating new life for someone who may be dying or without hope. It is the phoenix that rises from the ashes. So, in the same way that you scientists test that hypothesis, which may have to change when it's confronted with facts, if the facts in our laboratory of democracy bear out the hypothesis that stem cell research will sustain and grow new life. I hope and I expect and I believe that the political scientists will all change their conclusions and realize that to be pro-cure is to be pro-life. Welcome to Detroit. Thank you.
If you pose for a picture, put your notebook down and pose for a picture with your work.
Yes, I'd be happy to.
Thank you. Stand over here, please.
Mission accomplished. All right. Have a great conference, everyone.
Thank you.